Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Well, time for another quiet quitting, anti-work kind of rant. So this weekend, I did some research about some workplace accommodations. I teach at a community college, and I haven't been able to. I've been highly distracted as of late due to personal matters. Now, my job wouldn't be affected all that much, right? I'm very fluent with what I teach, and I really love all my students. My work isn't really affected that much. What's really being affected is my driving. I didn't drive today, so I got a reprieve from that. But this past week, I've been getting into multiple near miss car accidents daily. I would accidentally run red lights because my mind would spin out of control, and I had almost sideswiped somebody while looking for directions the other day, and not necessarily a safety issue, but I've made wrong turns and then I get lost, and then I almost get into accidents trying to get out of it. Now, my first inclination when I realized I couldn't drive was I looked up some public transportation, but good luck with that. This is Apache Junction that we live in. I live about 2 miles from the campus. I don't feel too comfortable with my bicycle either. At least there I won't hurt anybody, but I don't feel safe. And So my first inclination was to look at public transportation, but that wasn't really an option at all. My second inclination was to think about calling in sick, FMLA, or just regular sick time, or whatever the situation is. But then I realized that that's not going to help me heal. I really need my work at this more than ever during this time of turbulence in my personal life. What I really need to take the FMLA from is the commute, not the work, right? And then I did some googling about how to talk to your boss about health conditions that affect your ability to drive. I kind of googled that just to see, and I learned to my shock that technically FMLA doesn't even cover you if your health condition only affects your driving and doesn't affect your work. The best you should ask for apparently is see if they'll accommodate a schedule change so that you can line up your public transportation, which doesn't even apply here. There's no transportation there, or maybe to work from home, which kind of doesn't apply for the class that I'm teaching either. And so it's just kind of scary that given the nature of how we live and work here in the United States, driving is almost part of the job. In fact, I'd argue that I sometimes forget what I even am because the teaching comes so naturally from the heart. The toughest part of a given day is actually the drive, if I have to be honest with myself. Fortunately, I have the luxury of living pretty close to campus here. But at other jobs that I've worked at, there have been days where I've spent more time on the road than in the classroom, right? And anyways, just a scary thought out there, and I didn't even realize this until this weekend. I've taken FMLA for other things before, but they actually affected my work and not just my driving, right? And if I could teleport to work somehow, right, that would be ideal. To give you an idea of how distracted I've been with driving, earlier this weekend, I just happened to see on the news that a new variant of COVID. Oh, good. Let's go back to remote work. Right? That was my first thought because I really love all of the students. Although I don't think the classroom that I have right now would do very well with remote teaching. So, all right. Just a thought out there. A little bit of a gap, right? You would think, uh, assuming you exhausted everything, right? There's no public transportation here, right? All right. And tomorrow when I get to the office, I'll probably talk to a trusted colleague. I only live 2 miles away, right? And I might have to adjust a little bit and If I take a ride from one of them, maybe I'll get to the campus a little bit earlier than I want. But you know what? At least I get there in one piece, right? So right now, I wonder what my driving skill is the equivalent of. I wouldn't be surprised if I were regularly driving with the equivalent of like a 0.20 blood alcohol level these days, right? I wouldn't be surprised. But I wonder if there's a way to test just how impaired I am with the distracted thoughts. Apparently, if you're texting and driving, it's like a 0.1 or something like that. I'm way worse than that. I've seen friends text and drive, and they don't drive as badly as I did this past week. I used to be guilty of texting and driving, and even then, I didn't drive as badly as I did this past week. I'm very fortunate that my car's in one piece. I'm in one piece. Um, I feel badly for the few people who had to swerve to avoid me this past week. I had accidentally run a red light, and this SUV literally swerved off the road. And when he turned onto the same road that I ended up on, he was in shock. He was driving like this is I want to say this is a 25, 30 mile an hour road, and he was driving 10 miles an hour. He was in so much shock at almost running into me. And I almost changed lanes into somebody and sideswiped them, and they reacted. And didn't see the driver that time. It was a red sedan, and I almost ran into it. I could have crushed that car. My car was significantly bigger, and that's gonna bring me some bad karma, right? That's probably why at 1:30 a.m. I'm still hyper and thinking about the commute tomorrow and how I'm going to make it all in one piece, right? All right, continue to pray for me by leaving a dislike on this video. Feel free to share if you've ever had a near miss car accident. Also, if anybody on this page works human resources or whatever, how would you deal with a situation where your work wasn't terribly affected, but your driving ability was, and there was no public transportation options, right? Feel free to leave a comment on that. All right. Especially, I got to add to that. Your work isn't affected. Your driving is, and you kind of need the work in order to resolve whatever is ailing you at the moment, right? Well, what would you do in that situation, right? No public transportation either, right? That's what makes this whole thing tricky, right? If I could take off work, I would, right? But I think it would just ruin my psyche even more, right? That's the trickiest part of it, right? All right, so this is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.